Everyone, my name is Shelly. Welcome to Higher Conscious Thinker. You can find more information and resources at www.higherconsciousthinker.com. In this episode, I would like to discuss awareness, the different types of techniques and the methods. So awareness basically meaning growth, and had to have self-awareness, the ability to observe the self and the self's impact on our external environment, interactions with energy at various different levels and intervals. Now, awareness is knowing that your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, they are influenced by both internal factors, being what you put in your body and what you do with your body, okay, versus your external factors, everything else around you, all the energy forces around you. So your external environment and your physical and biological makeup, meaning your DNA code, the code of life. But remember, the code of life can be altered, your DNA. Used to, scientists believed that your DNA never changed, but now they see that it changes based on your environment. So your physical makeup, your potentials and limitations, knowing that we have a genetic code and we have physical limitations, physical limits, talents, pros and cons. And remember that DNA, it can be altered based on the self, your mind, your mindset, as well as your environment. Also concepts, knowing the body's systems, functions, and impacts on how you think, you feel, and you respond, such as understanding the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the nervous system, how your body functions, okay? And knowing that can help you control your emotions, the way you think, the way you respond. Also understanding the brain, getting into neurological concepts, the basics, okay? You don't have to have a doctorate degree to do this. And knowing simple psychology concepts, how we function, how we make decisions, psychology, what influences to make these decisions, as well as human history. Now, when it comes to neurology and psychology, knowing the concepts of how the brain works, using the limbic brain versus the prefrontal cortex, okay, and how we become consciously aware, conscious awareness, is knowing which part of the brain you are accessing and using, okay, to make decisions, aware that you are the observer over this life and you're in charge of the vehicle being your body over this life in this third dimensional world. Now, we all have those voices in our head, and who and which voice do you listen to? Meaning that a lot of this is depicted in cartoons and what have you. You have the devil, a metaphoric devil on one side, and then a metaphoric angel on the other side. Usually the devil is giving you bad advice, trying to fuel your bad decisions, versus the angels trying to make you make good decisions on the right side. As Jiminy Cricket would put it, always let your conscience be your guide, meaning the higher self, not the ego. The ego being the devil, your higher conscious self being the angel, if you will. Now, awareness is knowing which voice is communicating and knowing how to control and silence the negative. For example, your ego, you might have voices that say, hey, you're not good enough. Maybe you're running a marathon or what have you, or you're trying to finish a task or something, and you have one voice saying, oh, it's time to quit now. Just go ahead and quit. Just give up. You're not good enough. Or some of these are examples of voices that you can have, versus another voice in your head says, hey, you're almost there. Finish out, get this achievement. So it's more of one's positive and one's negative, right? So your ego, often with that voice, you can come with pressure, vanity, a prideful, arrogant, fear. It can induce paranoia, rejection, it's your judgmental attitude, entitlement, laziness, and also your selfish voice, right? So giving into ego, a lot of times we are our own worst enemy, and that's when we're giving into our ego, meaning that what the negative side of our voice, sometimes we give into it, and that's us becoming our own worst enemies. Now, the voices of the ego and the way we think in general is influenced by multiple factors. The way we're programmed, influenced by society, family, friends, teachers, neighbors, other people, communities. All these play a factor. They help build our understanding in our ego, okay? And so it's always good to stop and think, why am I thinking like this? Okay, especially if you have negative thoughts. It's good to go ahead and stop them saying, why am I thinking this? And this is a form of awareness. And if your circumstances or your situation are predominantly negative, seek how to change it into positive to make your life better, more fulfilling, right? So emotions are learned or learned behavior, learned emotions, learned behavior, your interpretation on how you respond to events and people, self-evaluation on the way you react versus how others react in general circumstances. Is always good to do a self-evaluation. Now, emotions are a lot of times are programmed behavior. A lot of times, we mimic the behavior of others. Sometimes we learn from others, and sometimes we act out based on our emotions, on how we feel. Now, also our feelings. Observe your mistakes and failures. Okay, it's always good to observe them and not to take it too seriously. Observe them and note them, but then move on. Learn from them. Observe your habits as well on a daily, weekly, monthly, and annually basis. See what you do. Humans are typically habitual creatures. Do you have any habitual repetitive patterns? And do these patterns, does it serve a purpose to improve or add positivity in your life? If it doesn't, it's always good to break those patterns and jump on a more positive train of thought to make your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts more positive. Now, also question yourself, hey, do you feel like there's something missing? Like there's something that you should be doing or somewhere else you should be? And if you're having these feelings, that's the urge to grow. It's an eagerness to experience. It's kind of like your inner voice giving you a kick inside saying, come on, let's go. So let's talk about some learning habits. What is the best way you learn? Okay, because learning, that's how we have more tools in the toolbox. That's how we can access knowledge. That's how we can grow, right? So what is the best way you learn, grow, and obtain knowledge? Is it through writing? Is it through visual learning? Is it listening? A little bit of all? What is your best way to absorb information? And once again, why does that matter? Because information and knowledge are power. Okay, power to control the self within and control your circumstances. Now, it would be a mistake to think that you control the outside circumstances to an extent, right? You can only control what you think and your emotions within. And that's the most important thing, because you can turn any negative situation into a positive situation, depending on your factors, right? So once again, it's more tools in the toolbox to draw from, more crayons in the box to color with. The more knowledge you have, the more you understand life and what it is. So what influences you and why? That's also a good question to ask yourself. Now, once again, awareness is the ability to change the way you react from a negative response to a positive response. Relearn to behave, but in this time you are in control, meaning you don't like the way you respond. Maybe something upsets you a little bit too much and you go over the edge. Something gives you anxiety. Learn from this. Question this. Hey, what is it that's causing me to go emotionally overboard? And learn how to fix these things. Okay, when I think about this, I'm going to turn it into a positive spin. And you can also draw from the net of human consciousness, this collective consciousness that we have all throughout human time, existence, space. Okay, we all draw from this net, meaning every belief, idea, opinion, thought, feeling, etc., every experience is in this big invisible net, if you will, an accumulation of experiences that we draw from. Our personality traits, our archetypes, they're all drawn from this huge net. Now, we're all individual and unique, but we draw from the nets, piecing together. So think about the net being in there, your favorite hobbies, your favorite sports teams, your favorite activities, your favorite color, your favorite thing to do, right? Picking and choosing what you're drawn to from this large net of human consciousness, meaning that you didn't necessarily, you might like art, but you didn't invent it, right? However, you're drawing from the consciousness. Yeah, your art is unique compared to everybody else in history, yet you are drawn to a certain genre, if you will. You're drawn to certain colors. You're drawn to certain things in the art category, right? So let's talk about environmental awareness. Awareness of the environment's impact on your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. And what it is energy. Everything is energy, made up of energy. It's energy reacting and interacting on different various levels, okay? Energy sources around being everything from animals, nature, bugs, frogs, birds, wind, trees, waters. All this produces energy, sounds, vibration, and colors. It's stimuli. It has a physical presence and has energy that makes an impact on your thoughts, your feelings, your mindset, how you're thinking. And life is everywhere. So awareness is the consideration of the geographic location as well, your point in time and space, being your barometric pressure, the humidity, the temperature, the weather, the elevation level. All that's going to have an impact on how you think and feel, right? Going to the beach, that has a different feeling versus being in the city, versus being in the forest, versus being on top of the mountains, right? So, talking about environmental controls, okay, the physical world interpreted. You have your human senses to gather what's in the physical world, and it's happening simultaneously. Multiple senses happening simultaneously. Your visual observation. You're observing various different colors and patterns. Okay, audio, your sounds, your various different sounds that you can hear, the smells, everything that you feel, you touch, you're sensing all this. And all these neuro interactions in the brain have an effect on the body and the way we translate the physical world. Okay, this is how we experience reality, how our brains interpret it. Now let's jump to empathetic awareness. Okay, the ability to understand other beings have limitations and potentials too. Now we ourselves were born with certain potentials, certain limitations, certain talents. There's a lot of things that we might want to do in this life, but we don't. We're limited by. Maybe it's a genetic factor. Maybe you're 5'3" and you want to be a basketball player, but yet you're not fast enough. Maybe okay, that could be a factor, or something else, right? Maybe you want to be a great artist. Okay, maybe you're semi good at art, but you love other people's artwork, and maybe yourself is not art is not a you're not a great artist per se yourself as far as what everybody else in relation in comparison to what everybody else. Okay, now everybody has their unique spin, but you get what I'm saying. Everybody has these limitations and certain potentials, certain abilities, certain talents, certain pros, certain cons, right? And also other people, so we can project our learning, our experience, our education level onto others, meaning putting expectations on others. Because if we put expectations on other people, that's when we begin disappointed. That can affect our mood. That can affect the way we our relationships with them. So the ability to put yourself in another person's shoe, okay, is often the phrase used. Relate and be sympathetic to their circumstances. Aware and understanding of other beings, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, and knowing that no one is programmed or has the same experience or education level. And even if you belong in a group in which you identify, not all members will agree on every single issue. Okay, we're all unique, very unique individuals with different opinions, different beliefs. Even if you go around and do a survey, you might do within the Christian community, the belief of God, describe God. They're not all going to have synonymous answers. Or what's your idea of heaven? Everybody's idea is going to be different from each other. Okay, so once again, knowing that not everyone also has access to the resources, education, your experience, your talents, pros and cons, etc. Okay, not everybody grew up with your level of understanding, your introduction of education into this world. Not everybody knows these universal concepts, and also there's also cause and effect, a reason why someone is feeling and acting the way they are. And this is the stages of learning and experience. So being an empathetic, having an empathetic awareness, knowing that maybe this person is not grown to your level. Maybe you meet somebody that's very rude to you, and correcting them, that might help, but it also might build even more tension, right? And knowing that they might not be on the same conscious awareness level as you, they still have a lot of growing to do. Okay, so going back to self-awareness, awareness of the self. Now, education and knowledge of the physical body, being your anatomy, your biology, knowing what's going on with your body, how your body functions. Okay, and also learn through experience. Once again, this cause and effect. You're mimicking behavior and using the scientific method. Science, for example, the scientific method, using technology to advance our understanding. Okay, now learn how the body works, the various stages of life, and the way we must evolve and adapt. How you treat your body. Okay, your body's chemistry, because what you put in your body and how you work your body, it all it all plays a factor in your emotions, your feelings, the way you think, and your emotions. So it's always good to analyze the amount of cardio, muscle strength training, the physical exercise that you do, how you circulate your blood, get your blood cycles going. Okay, that's how we stay healthy, right? Awareness of your body, knowing what combinations work for you. There is no perfect formula. Knowing physical exercise is a must for the healthy body to achieve good circulation. Good circulation means good organ health, as well as you're revitalizing those blood cells, right? You're balancing your body, coming to a good chemical balance within your body. But also, not only your physical activity, but your diet. Your diet plays a huge factor, what you put in your body. Because technically, you are what you eat, meaning the energy that you choose to consume makes a difference in how you think and feel. So, if you're taking a balanced diet, that's going to help you balance out your hormones, it's going to help balance out the chemistry in your brain, right? Versus for example, I love pie, but if I eat nothing but pie, I would have sugar crashes, and I would definitely develop probably type 2 diabetes, and I would have all these issues. I would have a chemical imbalance because my body needs these other nutrients that I'm not giving it. Right, so knowing that your body, a chemical reaction in the body, and using energy to convert in to a different form. Okay, this energy in different form. So why it matters? Treatment of what you consume, and now you can see in the markets, the big marketing ploy that we have, and we see that hey, we are humane. Like if you go buy milk, these cows or if you go buy meat. These cows are fed a well balanced diet. They're not injected with chemicals. We treat our cows humanely. Or if you buy eggs, right, from the grocery store, you can get organic eggs. And it'll advertise on the box, these are free range chickens. Now, that you have to watch out for because a lot of those advertisements, yeah, they could be free range, but are you talking about free range inside of a barn all day? Or are you talking about free range outside where they live healthy lives? They're not cooped up. Now, chickens that produce on these mass production lines that are in these small cages, that's just cruel. Okay, that's bad quality. That's bad quality eggs. Now think about it like this. Now, what egg would you want to rather eat? An egg that is, and we know that through science, trauma is passed through DNA. So think about it like this. You have a traumatized chicken that stays in this small little cage for its whole entire life, and it does nothing but produce eggs. It lives in horrible conditions producing eggs. So under that stress, they're producing eggs. So that trauma, in turn, is going through that egg that it's producing, and it's on your plate. Versus the egg that from a free-range chicken that is able to live a good, humane life. They're able to go. They have a good balanced diet. They can go and they'll live a great life as a chicken on the outside, scooping around for bugs, looking for worms, looking for all these things, and able to breathe. They're happy. Animals do have happiness and sadness too. So, which egg would you want to eat? You would definitely want to eat the one that has a happier chicken, right? The one that came from the happy chicken. Otherwise, once again, you are what you eat. Abused chickens live in horrible conditions. You're absorbing the chemicals in your body. That negative energy is attached and is carried through that, and you're putting it in your body now. So, knowing where the food that you eat, that you consume, comes from, and how you get it. Okay, and also acknowledging and giving thanks for having food to consume. Now, we live in an age of mass production, and it's unfortunate how we get that mass production. A lot of people don't even blink an eye on how that we sustain food. I mean, we're just mass producing, and I don't want to talk about the negative factors of how we treat these animals, but it is an awareness, and it's very sad about how we get our food. But and with our even our vegetables, the way we do plants, where they're chemically enhanced versus naturally growing, and that has an effect on us. As we can see now, it has an effect on our DNA. It has an effect on the way we think, on the way we act, on the way we feel, on the way we interact with our environment, right? So, and being thankful, back in the day, way before, the Industrial Revolution, when we had hunters and gatherers, they would often give thanks to their food. They would, a lot of people pray for their, meaning they get together and they show thanks for their food. And back then, hunter gatherers, they would respect the animal that they were chasing. They weren't just like, "Ha, I'll lop the head off on all these game, and I'm the best and I'm the bomb," right? It wasn't like that. Like not like the ignorant mentality of big game hunters as we see today that just want to kill animals just for the trophy. They actually admired these animals and were grateful for the sustenance that they provided. So let's talk about nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. Okay, once again, knowing your body's balance and excess. In excess of this could be bad, too little can be bad. You have to have the perfect chemical balance. And knowing your caloric intake. Okay, if you're highly active versus if you're more sedentary. Take into consideration how much food you need versus what your body needs to refuel. And this is how you maintain a balanced weight, too, because. And it depends if you're male or female, your body's needs. If you're active, if you're underactive, how active you are, how much fuel you're burning within a day. Everybody's different. Okay, there's no perfect formula. Everybody's different. You can always seek a dietitian for help in considering your protein percentages, your carb percentages, fat percentages, or you can do some self experiments, reading about it, knowing what you're looking for, knowing what a nutritional balanced meal is like, and adapting to what fits. Experiment, eat this much. And it's also good to, a lot of people have incorporated fasting. And fasting's really good because it helps reset your blood. Instead of eating 3 meals a day every day, which to me that's quite a lot, and especially the meal sizes that they provide today. And if you live, I guess, on my side of the world, the meal sizes, they're pretty big. Basically, one meal size can be your whole caloric intake in one day, especially if you're eating fast food. That's basically not all your nutrition that you need in a day, but you've been over just one meal. You're over your caloric intake, your balance, unless you're very active. And you'd have to be really active in order to run that off and have another meal. So, do your health and medical evaluation. Oftentimes, you want to consult with your doctor, depending on your needs, right? So, let's jump to the next subject: self awareness and mental health. Doing a self evaluation. Evaluate your daily activities and consider whether or not they are helping you grow in some way, or if you're stuck in a habitual pattern. So, here's some questions that you can ask yourself. So, how do you blow off steam? Right? So if you find yourself emotionally bothered, it's always good to acknowledge that feeling and know where it's stemming from, but also good for blowing it off, meaning, okay, well, I'm a little bothered by this. I'm going to go do some breathing exercises. I'm going to go take a run. I'm going to go work out at the gym. I'm going to go take this negative energy and find something positive to do with it, right? Blowing off your steam. And also, a good question to ask yourself is who do you talk to when you have a personal issue? Okay, do you have somebody to rely on when you have a personal issue? Who do you go to? Okay, and is that person, are they giving you positive advice or negative feedback, right? And also, the question to ask yourself is how do you communicate with people? And how do you treat yourself? And to make sure you don't punish yourself, right? Because we're all human, we all make mistakes. And the biggest step is forgiving others and forgiving yourself. But because we all know that before you can love others, you have to love yourself. And that's where it starts. Not a vanity love, but a self love, right? It's a different kind of love. And also to evaluate what makes you happy, what triggers your other emotions, and which emotions you exhibit the most. Okay, do you find yourself in a negative emotional state most of the time? And why is that? Evaluate your life habits. Okay, you can change, even if it's small changes for the time. And once you do these small changes, it'll be a domino effect where you can add up to the bigger changes. It'll give you enough positive energy to make that leap that you need to make. Now, how much time do you have set alone for your me time? Okay, and that is thinking and being with yourself. Because when you're around others, you have their emotional energy, their energy field. It's communicating with your energy field. It doesn't matter if you're in different rooms. The same if you're under the same household and somebody has very emotional energy and you don't, that's going to affect your energy. That's going to affect the way. Think about it like this: you walk into a room and people have been fighting. Maybe it's your workspace and everybody's mad. They found out there's been some layoffs, or, for example, um, somebody ate all the donuts or something like that. Just people are in general a bad mood. You can walk out, you can feel that tension among them. And the same thing for the complete opposite. You can tell that if somebody's happy, maybe they're throwing a party for somebody and they're really excited. Maybe somebody's having a baby or what have you, and people are in a celebratory mood. Then you can feel that energy as you walk into the room. It has an impact on you. So when you take me time, you're excluding yourself. You're making your own energy field. You're not being interrupted by any other things, any other beings, really. And this is why people choose to go in a dark room with no sounds, no other people, in order to meditate, because you're closing out all these energy sources so you can concentrate on yourself, check in with yourself. Because other people's energies will interfere with your ability to check in with yourself and think your own thoughts, have your own feelings, etc. I know that when I'm around a lot of family, like there's a lot of, and my family's really bossy, so uh, um, it's a genetic trait, I guess. And they, a lot of times it's hard to think on your own, have your own thoughts, because you're constantly being stimulated by other people, either telling you what to do or telling you what to think or telling you how to feel, or just constant stimuli of energy. And that's why it's good to have your own me time. So, how are you improving yourself? Okay, that's another question you asked. Through education, your talents. Are you exploring your talents, right? And the only way to know what you're good at is by experience and education. So, and can other people benefit from your contributions? This is a very important thing to ask ourselves as well. What are you contributing to the universe? What are you contributing to society? What are you contributing to other people? Okay, it's something simple. Whether you, I got a brother-in-law who he takes his time when he's not doing anything. He goes around the neighborhood and picks up trash, and he's a veteran of both Marine Corps and Coast Guard. I mean, he stand-up guy going around just picking up trash. I remember when I was in the car with my sister and we were on our way home, and I didn't even know he did this. And my sister was pulling to a stop with this guy, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're gonna like talk to this homeless guy? You're gonna yell at him? What are you doing?" And she's like, that's my husband. That's not a homeless guy." Because I was seeing him as picking out trash, and he was like, it looked like he was digging through things. It's kind of funny to see. And I was like, "Oh, okay, I see." Because you know how like other, a lot of homeless, they go around picking up cans and they dig through trash and try to get the cans so they can deposit. That's what I thought he was doing, and I was like, my sister, I was like, "You got your kids in the car. What are you doing?" And she's like, "That's my husband." But anyway, and I was so amazed by that deed. I was like, "Wow, that's a go getter." Right there. That's something that he's doing to contribute to society. And he's not looking for an award for that. He doesn't go and take selfies as he goes, picks up trash, and then post it on, or hashtag helping the world or anything like that. He just goes and does it. Okay, because he cares about his neighborhood. He wants it to look nice. He cares about his city. But anyway, it's something small like that, whether it's picking up trash, whether it's planting trees, whether it's adopting animals. And I my heart goes out to those people who, they see an animal in need on the side of the road, they stop and they help it, or they adopt from the shelter. That my heart definitely goes out to those people. Those are my favorite kind of people. People that take time to help others, or help especially the animals, because you see a large abuse in humanity towards our other beings here on the planet. Now, moving on to social skills awareness. Evaluate yourself in social situations. Being aware of how you present yourself and how others interpret you and your actions. Okay, this is a different type of skill, self-awareness. Being socially, how do you communicate with others? And also taking social cues from others, such as getting feedback from others. "Hey, what do you think about me? What do you?" And sometimes it's kind of a complex question, because a lot of times you might not get the honest answers, but you can get honest answers from your friends and your close family. "Hey, how do I present myself?" Um, And also, you can do this by gauging interactions with others. You can tell by what type of energy, feeling the energy in the room, reading the room, to see what kind of energy that you're putting off. If it's positive, do people respond negatively back to you, or do they respond to you in a positive manner? Okay, so question yourself, how well do you interact with others? And knowing that we do not get along with everyone. Now, everybody is on vibrations. Sometimes people are not on the same vibes. Maybe that and there will be people who you dislike, and despite our efforts, and vice versa, right? Of either us trying to like them or them trying to like us. And it's not a measure of good or bad. It just means you're not vibrating. You're not on the same vibe. Okay, your energy is not in sync, right? So, and what that means, like I said, is not a good person versus a bad person. It's just, hey, we're not in tune with energy. You might meet somebody that gets on your nerves or you don't like, one day, and then like maybe 5 years or maybe a day later, then you might see that person again and say, oh, okay, well, I like that person. They're not that bad. Okay, it depends on your vibration level, where you're at. And knowing that everybody has different energy and we don't always mesh with other people's energy. Energy, it can repel and it can attract, right? So not all energy mixes very well. So knowing and understanding what type of energy vibes you are sending and receiving, what type of people you are drawn to, and what type of people are drawn to you. It's always good to do a self-evaluation of this to understand what kind of energy that you're producing out into the world. And knowing how to interact with others, aware that everyone shares different views, opinions, beliefs, feelings, emotions, etc. And knowing what is offensive and knowing when not to add fuel to the fire, right? If you see somebody's in pain, it might not be a great idea to go and have a joke at their expense, right? Being able to read a room, or making a death joke when somebody had just died, right? So knowing how to read and knowing what's offensive, what can be offensive at that time, knowing that other people can be going through emotional crisis, and maybe you have a higher conscious awareness, but if you're highly elevated, then you will know, hey, this person's not there yet. They're going through the emotional breakdown. I need to give them the space or provide a helping hand. Now, also evaluate your social groups, okay, and who you hang around with, whether it's uh, your friends, your coworkers, what have you. Are they positive influence on your life? Does it have a positive outlet? Okay. Also, evaluate your relationships, your platonic relationships, your friendships, your work associates, your family, community, neighbors, romantic, your lovers. Evaluate those relationships. Identify the positive influences and the negative influence. Is it more positive than it is negative? And what do you need to change in order to improve your life? And it also helps to remember that we can become aware and work to improve ourselves, but we cannot expect others to do um, as we want them. So, for example, if you have a family member or maybe in a romantic relationship where you have these expectations for that person and you want them to act or behave a certain way, or you want them to do this or that, you can only control what you do. You cannot control what other people do, right? And you're going to end up making yourself unhappy, and that's just giving them negative energy, and then they're going to come back at you with negative energy, and then it creates this whole big monster of negative energy. Okay, maybe a lot of people, and this happens in relationships. This happened to me before. With relationships, you meet somebody, you're bashing at the same energy, but then you outgrow each other, right? Meaning they're no longer a positive influence on your life. They can allow you to grow and adapt, versus somebody that's influential to you, somebody that's giving you positive feedback. Okay, no matter what kind of relationship it is, whether it's a platonic friendship, work associates, romantic, neighbors, community, etc., family. Now, moving on to mental health, awareness of the selves, okay? The many selves of you. So you have the past self, the present self, and the future self. The same self, but it's in constant change. The same, but also not the same. You are still the observer in the physical form. However, your past, present, and future selves are much different from each other, meaning you no longer think as you did when you were a child, when you're an infant, when you're a teenager, the early 20s, 30s, 40s, etc., right? Everything has changed from a physical transformation to your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, your education, your experience level. All that has changed, right? So you're no longer into the same hobbies because we have a change in technology, the same change in science, right? So you're no longer doing the same thing that you were when you were a teenager, in your 20s, when you were a kid. Things change, and you go through various stages of consciousness as an observer. Okay, your attention span varies. Um, Now, talking about the different various stages as the observer, you can have tunnel vision, right, where you're concentrating on a task, sharpening some senses while dulling other senses out. For an example, reading a book. Okay, whether it's a fictional book or a non-fictional book, you go there. For example, Harry Potter. Okay, because that's a popular book, and that was one of my first favorite fiction books that I really got into. Is Harry Potter, because your mind, even though you're reading the pages on your book, but your mind, well, at least for me, it is producing these images, these stories, these emotions, to where you're actually seeing it with your brain, and you're not being aware that you're reading this book, right? You're projecting a reality that you can build based on what you're reading, what you're knowing, and you provide these emotions, these experiences, the appearance based on the author's description. So, and I'm sure you've done that before. And once again, like I said, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, you just go to a different level if you read enough, and especially it has to do with the author's writing, because when history, um, you can get those authors that they very pretentious work, and it's hard to read because every other word has to be something that you look up and you're like, okay, what are you actually saying? You're just using a lot of big fancy words and you're not really actually saying anything. That those kind of works aggravate me. But when the author is able to paint a picture in your head and show you the story of what's actually happening, that's pretty amazing. Okay, that's talent right there. So also different states and various states of consciousness. You can go through daydreaming states, and I used to daydream all the time. I'd be in class, and all has to do with our attention span. Our brain's going through these different frequencies all throughout the day, and as we sleep, it goes through these different frequencies. And daydreaming, you're sitting there, you're thinking about events that are happening, or you're making up scenarios in your head, whatever the case may be. And I remember this one day in class. I think I was in the fourth grade. Okay, and it was one of the best experiments I've ever had. This teacher decided, okay, um, get out your artwork, and we're going to draw whatever you want to in class, but I'm going to guide you through this listening technique. And what she did is the teacher, while we were busy on an art test, she said, "Okay, color what makes you feel good, what makes you feel positive. Color, draw something that's a positive image to you." And she guided us as a class onto a journey into our own personal spaces, places of peace. So while we were busy with the art, she would ask us to go to a place in our mind. She would ask us to think about a place that brings us peace, and she challenged us to picture it in our minds, a calming exercise. And it's very great, a very therapeutic exercise, a great form of therapy, a creation that you can resort back to when you need to calm yourself, thinking of a happy place. And they often do this in therapy, from what I believe and what I understand. That way, you can see it with your mind. You're guided through this space with your mind, but it's your space, it's your creation. They're just talking about how to get there, right? Kind of like when they do hypnotherapy, they talk about going through these doors. Okay, you go through the door, you go through a hallway, passageway. What do you see? Okay, you go through the door. What's it made out of? What do you see? You open up the door, and you're into this beautiful place. What do you see? You're painting that picture. They're just using adjectives to describe stuff to help you get there, right? And so for me, this happy place was beautiful rolling hills, green rolling hills, a sunny vision, skies, no bugs, of course, animals, a big tree that provides shade, and this is where I go. And I often think too, this is my heaven, if you will. Anytime that I'm in a bad place, I think about this euphoric place, and it feels like home, if you will. It's a great place it's a great task to do, exercise to do, and I wish that they would do that every year in grade school to help calm people down. So it's because it's great for your mental health. And also think about this. we go through different states in daydreaming, and think about also you're in an altered state of consciousness. If you're driving a car, maybe you got your buddy in there and you're talking about the things that you're going to do when you get to the location, or what you're going to do later that week or that night. So you're having a conversation. It's like you're on autopilot while you're driving, but at the same time you're having this joyous, enjoyable conversation with the person next to you. Okay, you're just talking, and it's not like you have to stop and do one or the other. Your brain's multitasking. Um, so that's going into different states. Also, dreaming. Now, going into a dreaming state, our brain goes through different frequencies. And when we sleep at night, that's a good way for our brain to, it's mentally healthy. That's why we have to sleep. Our brain is dumping off that information that we don't need, that we don't use. But a lot of time, the ego plays a major role in our dreams. It could be present as an altered reality. Now, our dreaming is our link to these worlds of infinite possibilities that is tied to our physical body. And the dreamer, they can dream to be other people and have experience based on other people. And they can dream of a grocery shopping next to somebody they like, and then suddenly realize that they're exposed, that they're wearing something ridiculous, or maybe they're completely naked, something that would bring them great shame and embarrassment. That would never happen in the real world. And this is often our egos playing out our fears, our paranoias, that often can be found in our dreams. Now, dreams, remember, we can go through different states. As we go through the different stages of sleep, our brain functions, our waves, our activities, they're going through these different levels, right? Now, moving on. So let's talk about the roles you play, the awareness, okay? Who are you when you are at certain times, okay? Who are you or present to be around certain people, around certain groups, around a certain person? Because we all do this. We all take on these roles. You have many selves, whether you're a parent, a child, a friend, neighbor, leader, follower, boss, student, teacher, lover, etc. Okay? You're not going to act the same as a parent as you would, let's say, to your best friend, right? Meaning you're not going to have the same conversation with the child as you would your best friend. You're going to get on their level, okay? You're trying to communicate with them, so you're trying to, you become a different person. So aware of each of these roles and the many roles that you play requires us, as social expectations, to present ourselves accordingly. Aware of how you act and present yourself in each of these roles, okay? Because when you're a teacher, you're not going to act the same as you would if you were a student, or if you were around your best friend, or if you're around your parents or your children, right? You're going to take in a more authoritarian role as being in control of this information that you're trying to relay to students, right? So let's talk about moving on to our next subject: awareness of life and energy, and the makeup of the universe. Now, here's the thing: the universe, we are all connected in one. When they say unity, meaning we're all connected, okay? We're all part of the same link. So if I do something bad to you, I'm really harming myself. Or if I do something bad to the planet, I'm really harming myself, because we are all connected. We're all in this together, okay? And a lot of times the universe, it's always in communication with us, meaning that, and it's amazing how this happens. And whether it's glitches, coincidences, and I'm sure that you've lived long enough to see that these coincidences, a lot of these coincidences make you scratch your head and say, wow, like I don't even see how that's possible. And also the small world feeling, maybe you meet somebody and then they're friends with your cousin, or they know this person, and you're all connected in this small little circle. And no matter if it's in a different geographic location, it's amazing how small the world can feel, despite the fact that we have a lot of people on the planet right here. Now, also perspective, evaluating your circumstances, your problems, your situation, and your current state. Okay, we are all born in different economic and social and even religious circumstances. Okay, in evaluating your circumstances, in the problems that you have in life, the situations that you can have in your current state. Okay, having this awareness, perspective, having that perspective, and knowing that nothing lasts forever. Meaning, yeah, maybe you might be going through a bad state. Maybe you have an economic decline right now where you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're barely getting by. Okay, that passed, because I've been in that state as well. And it passed. You just have to grow and do something. You have to change what you're doing, you're positive, or wait for that. one of the biggest fears that I ever had is after I got out of grad school, during that time of when grad school was ending and when I didn't have an occupation, and I was applying to all these things, back then the job field was so tight, like you couldn't even find a decent job. I mean, only the crappy jobs were available, and um, so I was very scared. I was very fearful. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had a fear that I could possibly be unemployed or be working in a bad job my entire life, still making close to minimum wage, even though I have all these debts, all this education behind me. Those are real fears, and whether it's a social situation, a religious situation, an economic situation, nothing lasts forever. Okay, and it's always good to progress. Keep on trying. Keep on doing what you need to do in order to move forward and get out of the situation. Because honestly, I believe that everything that's meant to happen, that our future can't be predicted, but there's kind of like a path that we can go on. And if we ask for guidance, then we'll definitely get on the right path. So, if you have problems or issues in life, ask how you can grow from this. So, if you have a negative factor or maybe a traumatic event that happens in your life, yeah, it's good to absorb those emotions and acknowledge your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions, but focus on how you can grow, how you can overcome and adapt from that situation. Weigh your options. Seek information relevant to your issues. Okay, we live in the age of information where you can look anything up, and odds are, even if you have a isolated event where it's just you involved, I'm sure there's somebody across the world or around that has also had issues that are relevant to what you and maybe synonymous to you and can help in that way. And know that no one source has all the answers, yet the answers are everywhere and everything. Okay, for example, trying to find the meaning of life, the meaning of the universe. It exists. You can see these answers everywhere, and they're embedded in everything. You just have to have this awareness and take note, right? So let's talk about triggers and awareness. Okay, triggers and awareness being you can have endorphin stimulation, the release of feel good hormones, such as our dopamine receptors in our brain, aware of the neurological effect of the brain, such as doing tasks as smiling, laughing, joking, and relaxing. What that does is does a hormone dump. It raises your dopamine receptors, your level. That's endorphin stimulation. Also, medical awareness, meaning your chemical components, active and reactive ingredients, your side effects of these. Now, we're and as we grow, our hormones change. And if you've been through your teenage years and you're into adulthood, you know that your teenage years, you had a different mindset altogether, right, than you did in your adult stage of life. It's hormones. It's a chemical stimuli, right? Chemical component in your brain. And then as you get older, it changes as well. Also, it depends on changing what you eat, your diet. Okay, that has an effect on your hormone levels as well and the way you think. And also, when it comes to medication awareness, if you're taking medications or you're doing some extracurricular uh, choices, then it's always good to know the side effects. Now, I'll share my experience here. I used to smoke marijuana a lot, and I thought it was getting rid of my anxiety. But it turns out, after I quit, it turns out that that's what was causing my anxiety. And that's something I wouldn't realize. Like, and I became so dependent on it. Like, I had to, like, oh my gosh, if I gotta go to the grocery store, I gotta hit my bong before I go to deal with what's out there, right? And that's how I was thinking, and that's a bad way to think, because you need to be able to. I wanted to be self-reliant, not have to, rely on anything such as that in order to make it, because especially around here, it's not legal everywhere, and it can be quite dangerous, living on the dangerous side there. So, and it's quite expensive too. So a lot of negative components to that, but the good thing is it's not. I'm not against it. I'm just not. It's not going to be part of my everyday life like it was, to where it had such a control on me that I couldn't function without taking a hit from the bong. Anything I did, like even after exercise, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it makes you lazy, it makes you not do anything," but that's not true. From my experience, I mean, it made me do things. Like I had the mindset to where, in order to do this, I got to smoke to make it better, right? Um, because that's what the way I thought. But anyway, moving on, and we already talked about foods and liquids. Now, especially alcohol that changes the mind. It disables the prefrontal cortex, so you're really working on your ego. Only your egotistical thoughts. That's why we make bad decisions, and that's typically why we lose friendships, family members. We disappoint people when we're on alcohol, when we drink too much or become alcoholics, because it really eats up our the good side of us, if you will, our prefrontal cortex, the ability to make good decisions. And that's why you're always making bad decisions when you're under the influence. Now, also, chocolate that can have many effects. I know, like if I'm feeling down, then I can have a piece of chocolate and that'll make me feel better, right? And that could be a mind over matter thing, but I think that to me, I really feel like there's something that my body reacts to when the ingredients of chocolate that makes, but too much chocolate that will upset my stomach. So, and then also pepper, spicy food, your favorite foods, evaluating what the chemical balance for you, because everybody's different, right? Nobody's the same. And also, once again, your extracurricular activities such as your sports, your recreation, what do you do? Okay, how do you enjoy stuff? Because if you don't enjoy running, then don't run. Find another different activity in order to get your physical activity in, okay, whatever the case may be. There's plenty of activities out there. Now, mental health, learning to laugh and not taking things so seriously. So, and this is a great way to learn perspective. It's fun to self-evaluate. It's fun to make fun of yourself, not at your own expense to where you're tearing yourself up and down, but it's always good, healthy to take yourself outside your box. Okay, especially if you are the type that believes we are energy, as I do, that we are energy, and once upon this death, this physical body, you can evolve to any other kind of state that you want to. Maybe you can live another life here on the planet. Okay, as in such similar to reincarnation, or maybe you had many past lives, many future lives ahead of you. Right? It all is you know, it's always good to take yourself outside. Think of yourself as energy, and think of your other self as your body, the decisions you make, your past, the ridiculous things that you've done in the past. I know I've done a lot of ridiculous things in my past, but I don't not gonna go back and feel guilty or shame about it. Like I just sit back and I laugh at myself. Man, like I was so silly back then. I can't believe I did something like that. Right. And, not taking yourself so seriously. So I like to watch these national comparison videos. A lot of Europeans, they're making fun of American culture, not making fun of obnoxious Americans, okay? That's something completely different. That's a behavior issue. But making fun of American culture, behavior, and mannerisms, and how they see us, and what we can observe or do not observe or notice about ourselves, because it's our culture, right? To us, it's our familiar, what we're familiar with, until somebody brings it to our attention, like, oh yeah, I noticed that that's a trait that all you Americans do is doing this. But I love watching those videos. Or just sitting there poking fun, and even within the United States, we have different areas. We have the South where people talk different. You have a different mindset. They're more hospitable, and versus the North, they tend to be, the stereotype is a little bit more cold. Their personalities are different. I wouldn't say meaner, but I would say definitely different than Southern people. Southern people, they throw out their hospitality. They throw it on you, like you know you exist. They go and you can be a complete stranger. They'll wave at you. They say hi, hey, how you doing? Versus if you go up in the North, you wave at somebody, they're gonna look at you like, oh my God, what does that person want from me? Why are they looking at me? And even from there to Central America, to, I mean, as far as Central United States, and then even in to the West, it's completely different behaviors, different mannerisms, different cultures, different way people talk, right? Now, a lot of people here in the South, they make fun of our language, the way we talk, because they say that, we extend our vowels. I remember when I moved out to California, my friends would make fun of me. They said, you're like a Martian. I remember. Because, I mean, my culture was completely different, and the way I pronounced things, the way I said things, it was completely different than what they were used to. And, of course, they thought I was a little bit dumb because I talked slower. But that's just that's how Southern people talk, right? But anyway, not to get offended by that, but and try to distance yourself and find yourself. If you find yourself becoming offended more often than not, and there's a difference between making fun of the self and promoting offensive hate, right? Uh, Downing on a group of people versus making light fun. It's okay to notice behavior, mannerisms, cultural differences, and comparing ourselves to other people around for insight and perspective. After all, we are all connected in the fact that we're energy forms. We're all the same in that sense. We're all unique, we're all combined, but we as humans, we're all different. We're all unique in various different aspects, right? And once again, it's not okay to shame, oppress, or propagate violence or hate towards another person or other groups. This is just ridiculous, right? But it's okay to have a laugh at yourself. So we are diverse beings, and let's have a laugh. Another thing, and people are so sensitive now. It's hard to cut a joke and knowing when other people would take it too far. And some people might find this sexist, but I found it completely funny and hilarious, and it's helped me get through these situations, especially certain times of the month. So when I was a teen, I had a male best friend, and from the age of, I believe, when I was 10 until I was around the age of 15. He was my best friend. We joked, we played video games together, we did everything together. It was so much fun. My favorite time was when he would come over and we'd have a blast. And I remember when I was older, I was going through the stages. I was hitting puberty, right? And going through the stage where I was starting my cycle, my monthly cycle. And I never remember the job. And I was pretty down about it. I was, feeling ashamed, embarrassed, and I absolutely hated it. And I was thinking, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why? I don't like this. Um, why does this have to happen, right? And, although some people may consider this offensive and this joke even sexist, I find it hilarious even today. But I remember, I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, my dad told me not to trust anything that bleeds for 7 days and doesn't die. And I was just like, after he said that, it changed my life completely. Like every time that I am feeling down about like that situation, that circumstance, I always laugh about that, and because it's funny, it's true. Because if something were bleeding for 7 days and it didn't die, then there's something going on there. But yeah, I'll never forget that he said that. It cheered me up a lot. And also, back in the day, I get a lot of dumb blonde jokes, even though I wasn't, dumb or anything. But we all do stuff that's dumb, and it's funny because it's relatable. Um, and also all these different type of jokes. I love jokes and I love them even at my expense. When me and my friends, when I lived in LA, we'd go to the comedy clubs up there in LA, and even when the comedians picked us out of the crowd and put jokes at our expense, it was funny. Like we were laughing, like we didn't take offense to it. It was just funny. Like, oh, where did you two come from? Like they would just make fun of us. It was great. It was great. So jokes are funny observations that are not always necessarily true to the circumstance, but may be typical. And to me, the funniest jokes are that are relatable are often at my expense. And if you cannot laugh at yourself, then what are we doing here, right? So let's talk about more about awareness techniques. Okay, what helps bring awareness? Questioning the self, others, and anything and everything. Okay, talking about breathing exercise. And when we do breathing exercises, what we're doing is we're taking control of our respiratory system. Okay, and this provides mental clarity for this because we're no longer really thinking about other things. And this is a great way to relieve that negative emotions that you're experiencing, whether it's sadness, anger, impatience, etc. It's a great way to silence the ego because you're taking over your respiratory cycle. Now, a respiratory cycle, it's automatic. Okay, we breathing, we don't have to think about it. It's an automatic function. But when we take it over, we're now becoming in control of the oxygen that's going in, what's coming out, right? So doing breathing exercises, and these are awareness techniques. And when I'm talking about the first technique that I mentioned, the questioning the self, others, or anything and everything, meaning being inquisitive. Don't just take the first answer you see. go ahead and question. It's okay to question knowledge and question information because there's no such thing as the truth. The truth is perspective, right? It's relevant to the observer. So, also, awareness techniques is observing nature, like going on a hike, going camping, observing a sunrise, a sunset, going up to the mountaintops, going to the forest. Majestical imagery and the feeling that serves and to remind us that we are a product here of this planet, of Earth. And we are living in the physical world, and all life is precious. Now, when you have this, it's supposed to, like, see a sunset. It's supposed to humble you, or like when astronauts go into space. Okay, they see the planet from a different perspective. It's very humbling. Um, Now, another awareness technique is meditation. Okay, silencing thoughts, shutting up the ego, concentration of energy aimed to improve internally, speaking to this in seeking the higher self, and seeking to become simply the observer with no strings attached to anything or anyone at the present moment in time. And a good way to do this is, as a beginner, in a meditation, I would go to these groups where they would meditate, and I wasn't feeling nothing. I was like, this is kind of stupid. I don't get it, you know. Even though it was guided meditation, I really wasn't getting it. But the best example I had is knowing actually what you're doing, because there's not going to be a light that turns on and says, hey, you're doing it right. You made it. Congratulations. You did it. And that's kind of somewhat I was expecting, but on a more rational level there. But the way I read and with the way I understand it for meditation, especially for beginners, is because my voice, it just wouldn't shut up. The voices in my head, it just wouldn't shut up about what was going on. Um, and the best thing to do is, like I said, get in a quiet room. Maybe you can have some water trickling. Maybe you have some candles lit, what have you. Get in a dark room, away from everybody, away from everyone, and complete silence. Okay, sometimes you might have to put one of those blindfolds on and sit in silence and think. What works for me, I know, is think about a space. Going out into space where there's nothing around you, nothing to make it relatable to. It's just you and nothing but darkness all around. You're passing the planets, you're past the solar system, the planets, the galaxy. You're passing multiple galaxies, and now you're in the point of space where all you see is nothing. You have no point of reference, and then you're there alone, and you're breathing in and you're breathing out. You have no worries. You're shedding off all worries, all negative energy. It's just you reaching out to yourself. It's just you in that moment in time and space. Okay, and then being there for a while and just breathing in and breathing out, concentrating on your breathing, and then, to reset. And that way, when you come back and you're stimulated by all this other energy, you can be thankful because, I mean, that is the definition of being completely alone, is being out there by yourself in the middle of the universe with nothing, no point of reference. Okay, where you don't even know if you're upside, downside, or anything because you have no point of reference to judge yourself, right? So that's meditation. Now, talking about chakra balancing, that's another great awareness techniques. Now, chakra balancing, it typically focuses on the seven chakras, starting from the base of your spine all the way up to the top of your head, right? And you're doing these hummings as you go through each chakra. And what you're doing is you're humming these vibrations and concentrating energy flow on various energies throughout your body. And as you breathe in and you're doing these hummings, you're getting in tune with your body, and you're creating this force field of energy to come and cleanse each cycle. Okay, that's what you're doing with chakra balancing. Also, another awareness technique is binaural beats. Now, I fall asleep often trying to do this activity, so I kind of stop. But you have to practice at it. A lot of times people fall asleep at first listening to this, but listening and focusing on the sounds. Now, certain people are more receptive to this than others. It depends on the person, right? And through this state, you can it's been known that a lot of people report that they access different dimensions, different states of mind, different brain frequencies. Now, they're using different frequencies to stimulate your brain. Okay, and this is what that is, binaural beats, and that's supposed to help you, if you will, it's a form of meditation. It's a different access, a different gateway, if you will, to a different state of mind. Also, another awareness technique is learning in the form of reading. Okay, reading, you're gaining perspective and it's all if you like to read. So, and this is my way and outline. This is how I become more aware. Is when I was studying human history, understanding the way of life in different points in time and space, understanding different peoples, how they lived, how they felt, what they believed, how they experienced the world, and understanding human consciousness net and the others you are drawing from, their ideas, their beliefs, their opinions, their likes, their dislikes, etc. Knowing where knowledge comes from. Okay. Now, another technique would be memory exercises, meaning you're examining yourself. Okay, you're looking at yourself in the past. You're writing down things that you remember in different stages of your life. You can keep a record or a journal of this. Often to help refresh your mind, you can use photographs and videos and observe how you felt then, who is important to you, what was important to you, what made you happy, what activities did you enjoy, how did you see yourself in the future then, what were your goals then, did you have expectations of in the future. And here you would compare yourself from various stages of life to your current stage. Now you got to be careful with memory exercises too, because a lot of times we can romanticize about the past, meaning we're elevating it, making it seem more inflated than it actually was. Or we can look at the past with a bunch of guilt, a bunch of shame, a guilt, and these are both negative aspects to look at it. Okay, even though because when you romanticize about something, you can say, "Oh, well, my life's not going to get any better than it was at this point." Okay, a lot of times we look at the good old days, and that's us romanticizing about the times that we had. And I had to catch myself doing this because when I was thinking like, okay, well, there's not going to be another time in my life where I was as happy as I was when I was 12, being a kid, playing video games, and doing that, just having the time of my life. But that's not true. I've been through different stages, and you don't know it's the good old days until you're in, the good old days have passed in the first place, right? So be careful of doing this as well. Now, also another exercise, another awareness technique is setting goals. Okay, daily, weekly, monthly, annually, lifetime. What are your goals? What do you want out of this life? What would you change about your life and that would make it more positive experience? Okay. Also, you can keep a log and a journal or app of your physical activity, your diet, experiment. Uh, to find what works best for you, medical and health conditions, be sure to consult your doctor. Okay, now moving on to the conclusion to wrap this episode up. Quite a long episode talking about awareness. But remember, you are on a journey, but so is everybody else. We are all significant and special because we are here in the physical world, full of life. We're in the third dimension here, and people evolve and learn at their own stages, and they cannot be forced. Okay, if you're ready to evolve, and let's say this person that's your friend is not, then don't hang back and wait for them to evolve. Okay, that could be their top of evolution for this life. Keep on going, keep on elevating. And the way forward is through tolerance, understanding, and forgiveness. And people that we encounter who are rude, greedy, violent, and exhibit negative behavior, remember that they learned, that's learned behavior, and that may be the only way that that person knows how to communicate or express themselves, that they haven't grown yet, right? They're not on the same consciousness level that you may have reached. And remember also that the world is in constant transformation. Societies change with their laws, beliefs, opinions, cultures, future, and how they interpret the past. Also, our style, art, architecture, our way of life, all of it changes through science, technology, and medicine. Even our occupations change. Think about this, everything from 10, 20, 50, 100 years. Um, Looking at VHSs. I remember, being a product of the 80s, we would go rent VHSs, regular Nintendo cartridges, and what have you. And then you had such things as video rental stores, okay? And then in the 90s, they did not survive. After the 90s, they were hot in the 90s, late 80s, but they did not survive. We went from VHS to DVDs to Blu rays. Excuse me. And it did not survive the 21st century due to the technological advancements. Okay, now we have computers, we have cell phones, we have different apps now that we go instantly to watch movies and videos. Also, quantum computing, meaning robotics are taking over the workplace, replacing those dangerous or menial jobs, those occupations that can cause harm or can cause serious injury or just really not good for the human mind in order to grow and adapt. And occupations that have been consistent, unfortunately, these occupations that have been consistent throughout human history are prostitution, slavery, and insurance. And hopefully, we can eliminate all those. So, moving forward, predictions of the future. Just a little small section on predictions of the future. These are my predictions for the future, what I think that the future is going to look like. I believe that in the future, we're going to advance to where we're going to have basically these medical bracelets, okay, a medical like type device that has laser quantum technology that monitors your blood and your health conditions, cueing you when you need to seek a medical treatment, such as you have too much sodium. It'll say, hey, you've had too much sodium. Drink water in order to let these go down. Or, it's going to tell you what the problem is and also tell you how to fix it. I think we're going to get to that technology issue. So, versus today, if you feel bad or you think you might have a health issue, it's everybody's guess, and you can be mixed diagnosed. You have to go from doctor to doctor. You go to the regular doctor, they have to give you a note to go to a specialist. And like 20 weeks later, you finally see the doctor that you need to go. And so we're relying on a flawed system. Um, uh, or despite our education and comprehension levels, people get passed left and right without being taken into consideration. And the doctor-patient relationships today in the modern day, especially in the cities, the doctors no longer actually know their patients. You're just a number, another patient's going by, right? You're not really considering it. The Hippocratic Oath is kind of really being thrown out the window. Ever since the 70s, it's a money-making business versus and it's processing patients in and out through insurance, right? Modern day healthcare systems all about money, funds, grants, insurance, etc., versus concentrating on the actual human being. What's going on? What's wrong? And when I used to work in the medical field, I remember seeing these patients, and a lot of times the nurses or doctors, they would bat, oh well, they just want pain medication. They're not really in pain. And and this is a flawed system. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people that abuse the system, but there are a lot of people that actually, the reason why they're going to the hospital, nobody wants that hospital bill. It's ridiculous. And then, people don't have enough money to pay for it. And it's, you have to fight with insurance companies to get, even though you're paying insurance, you have to fight with them to get them to pay for anything. And they don't want to pay for anything in the first place. So, yeah, it's a very flawed system. And I hope the future will be better to eliminate all that nonsense. And also with these medical analyzers, it can inform us the status, such as, oh, this person has a virus, and it'll help STD prevention as well, saying, okay, well, this person is, it's constantly has contracted chlamydia. You would rethink, okay, well, I just went on a date with this person. I'm not gonna until they clear up their issues or find another partner, right? And I know people are like, oh, that's a form of discrimination, but not really, because you need to be. I mean, unless the person's ready to be honest, and you can do that through these these medical technology in the future. That way, you can help prevent disease and help yourself and others around you. Now, also with our infrastructure changes, this is going on already in multiple places, adding more green infrastructure to cities, meaning we're integrating vegetative life into our development, okay? Because you need a root system, whether it's a grass, tree, legume, or plant life, in order to prevent flooding. Right now, we have storm drains where they get clogged, they're not efficient, they become clogged with trash. People litter all the daggone time, unfortunately. They do it all over here. It aggravates me so much. And it's easy for a lot of restaurants, they dump their grease down these storm drains. People dump all kinds of paints, pollutants. And a lot of times our storm drains, they go out into our rivers or our lakes, okay, where our fish are. It's where we eat. That's where our animals survive. And we need those animals, those fish, that entire ecosystem in order to clean out our environment. People just don't care. And unfortunately, you get your storm drains clogged. That creates flooding. You create an increase in water and accumulation where water goes at a high speed, creating loss of property, loss of life. And now they're looking at new futuristic systems being incorporate green infrastructure. So now, for example, City of Atlanta, if you want to develop in the City of Atlanta, 25% has to go to green infrastructure. You have to have a way for water to be retained and not just count on the storm drains, right? So, moving on to another subject. Now, sexuality and gender. Now, when I went through school, I came to the conclusion that it's fluid. Okay, sexuality and gender. It's very fluid, meaning that you can have a person that might be into guys one day and then might be into girls in the next 10 years of their life. Might be back into guys. So we're all about labeling people, whether they're homo, whether they're hetero, or whether they bi, whatever category that they fit in, right? So I think that there will no longer be categorized, but a universal understanding that people who are who they want to be, right? Um, Also, another subject is quantum computing. That will change the way we communicate, how we transport people, our goods, our occupations, and will elevate the quality of not just human lives, but all of our lives in general, and hopefully allow us to become less of an invasive species. And what I mean by that, instead of destroying parts of the planet, we'll become less invasive. Like we can start building, maybe have hovers where our buildings are not really so much touching the ground and contaminating the soil, contaminating the earth, as it would be. We can find ourselves building stuff in the sky, and people are becoming more self-aware. That's another thing that's going good with the planet is there's an explosion in science meshing with spirituality. Used to those things would repel because of the human history, what we went through, but now they're starting to mesh. They're starting to come in, realizing the human potential and the next level to reach and strive for. And there's a large focus on mental health, which is also great. And also with climate change. Now, Earth and everything is in constant transformation, and it's no surprise that humans have an impact on climate, what we produce, the gases that we produce. It's going to also change the atmosphere, right? So, the Earth has been through a number of ice ages, a heating and cooling phases of the planet, and the planet has the power to shake us off, meaning it can kill us off easily enough, and before we are capable of destroying her. So, human history and the environment, yeah, we can become victims, even close to extinction, just like we did with the volcanic eruption over hundreds of thousands of years ago. But, all throughout human history, we are special as a species because we work in unity, we evolve, and we adapt to our environment. I mean, just like other species evolve and adapt to our environment, but we have the ability to work in unity together to make things better. For example, in humans, in order to dominate their environment, that's how they use engineer controls. For example, using ancient Sumerians, they had their dam structures. Romans and Greeks, they built long, distant aqueducts to carry fresh, clean water directly into the city. They had plumbing. Also, the creation of windmills using the elements as an energy source. Humans use the environment to their advantage, and construction of structures to reroute or create power sources. That's the one thing we're good at. And also, we can't ever underestimate the human creativity, meaning when circumstances seem dire, there's always a way it seems to work out. For an example, you have Adam Smith and John Locke, etc., going to talking about the population statistics. And yeah, they were right. If the planet kept going that way, we didn't have enough agriculture to feed the population. At that time, the methods to feed the population was showing the majority red flags, indicating that the future populations would starve to death. But then the industrial revolution came along, and that changed the whole ball game on how we think, how we live, how we're able to survive and interpret. So I think there's a lot of good things in the future, despite the ugliness that humanity can present to itself in its current time. I know we see a lot of horrific events, a lot of things in the news that are very horrific. People killing each other, people kidnapping each other. Is still the sex trade going on, the slave trade. Also, various different outlets, right? That people are doing. People are abusing animals. Leaving them in cages, dropping them off because they don't want them anymore. Those people are despicable, and honestly, I have no words. My heart goes out to those poor animals that just get dropped off by these ugly human beings. Honestly, if I was in charge of the world affairs, I would have those people be locked in cages themselves. But yeah, I have a very very animals. That's my tender button right there. And so, my heart goes out to all those people that actually save animals, that do stuff to help animals, that provide them a good life. You know. because we are the caretakers of the earth, and that's our responsibility to make sure other beings on this planet are well cared for and not just put in terrible situations. But anyway, that's the end of the podcast. Very long podcast, but I hope you guys were able to draw from this. And if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to email me. And if you'd like more academic resources, be sure to visit my page at www.higherconsciousthinker.com. And feel free to shoot me an email at higherconsciousthinker@gmail.com. Thanks very much for listening. Have a nice day.